and these officers went into the house. They were in there 15 minutes. They come back out and they say, Phil, we don't find anything. We can't find nothing. So we locked it back up, and we were pulling out of the driveway. I didn't see it, but one of the deputies, he had drove in. I had backed in. He drove in and he stopped right in front of me, and I thought, what's he stopping for? He got out, and I got out. I said, is there something wrong? He said, I just saw a light come on and go off. So he went back inside, him and the other deputy, one more time. Nothing. So I let the closest family member know nothing was found. What happened with the light? And she told me, just go to the main and just shut the whole house down. So we did that, and he was backing out again, and it happened again at another window. This time there's no power in the house. He goes back in for a third time, finds nothing. And at that point, you know what? We both decided whatever's in there, we don't want to meet.
With infinite complacency, people went to and fro of the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Well, everybody, welcome back to will be married to the other portion of Phil and I's last chat. Of course, you can see we both look a little different because we're recording this on a different day now. But Phil is back to finish all of these incredible, creepy stories that he and his wife have collected over the years from working in property management. And these include homes and abandoned mortuaries, which we talked about on part one. All right, Phil? So welcome back. And what we are going to do is pick right back up in Walker City, Georgia. And this is August of 2007. And you titled this bullet point, Dementia.
Yes. This particular incident here, it happened just down the road from where I live. I live in one county. This is the next county over, but I have to go through part of that county to get to my home, right? And last year, there was 4 people killed in a house. And a boyfriend, domestic issue, comes over there, shoots his girlfriend, shoots her dad who had dementia, kills another friend, and then kills an off-duty officer. No, another friend. Then he kills himself, right? And about a month or so after that, I was on my way home, and it was pouring down rain. The house sits about 200 feet off the road, so it's off the road a good ways. And I'm driving, and I just happened to look over in the front yard, and I could see somebody in the front yard. And my first thought was, down the road there's another guy who had dementia, and I thought he's been known to get out and wander around. My first thought was it was him, you know. So I turned around, go back, pull in the driveway. Now remember, I'm going to emphasize this. The house looks just like it did at the time they were murdered. There's a RV in the driveway. There's a truck in the carport. Nothing has been moved, so it's just basically what it was when it happened. So I go back, and when I get back, it's empty. The front yard's empty. So I'm thinking, all right, I'll just pull in the driveway here, and I'll call the people down the road, which I had their number. And I said, hey, I think Jimmy got out, and they said, no, Jimmy's over here on the sofa watching TV. And I told them what was going on. They said, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure I saw someone. So my second thought was, okay, maybe someone's trying to break into the house. That's not uncommon. People read obituaries, and then it becomes a target. So I decided to get out and walk around the house. I put my rain slicker on, and I walked around the house. And then when I got back to the side of the house where I was parked, all of a sudden it hit me, and a dose of reality. I said, "What in the world are you doing? Walking around this house in a downpour, and just a month ago there was a homicide here." I said, my mind just went somewhere else. Then I went back to my truck and I sat in that truck, and then I said, you know what? I better call the sheriff's department just in case. So I called the sheriff. The deputy shows up. I tell him what I see. He walks around the house, sees nothing around the house, but he does peer in through a front door. And he said he saw something inside when he peered in the door. Uh, so he immediately went ahead and called another unit to come there so he wouldn't be by himself. And they kept looking through windows and never saw it again. And so they asked if I had a phone number to the family, and I said yes. So we called up, the closest relative, and we told them what was going on. And they told us where there was a hiding key at. They had hidden a key, so we went and got the key. And these officers went into the house. They were in there 15 minutes. They come back out and they say, "Phil, we don't find anything. We can't find nothing, nothing at all." So, okay, are you sure? I said, "Yeah, I'm sure what I saw." And well, okay, there's nothing we can do. So we locked it back up, and we were pulling out of the driveway. I didn't see it, but one of the deputies, he had drove in. I had backed in. He drove in, and he stopped right in front of me, and I thought, what's he stopping for? He got out, and I got out. I said, "Is there something wrong?" He said, "I just saw a light come on and go off." So he went back inside, him and the other deputy, one more time. Nothing. So I let the closest family member know nothing was found. What happened with the light? And she told me, just go to the main and just shut the whole house down. So we did that, and he was backing out again, and it happened again at another window. This time there's no power in the house. He goes back in for a third time, finds nothing. And at that point, you know what? We both decided whatever's in there, we don't want to meet. So we left. And that one's one that I have to drive past every day. So every time I drive past it, I'm always thinking, what was it? Who was it? Why was it? Nothing like that has ever had again. But I can't tell you that when I do drive past the house late at night, that it doesn't kind of send a chill uh, over me, you know. So that was the end of that one. Uh,
Is that home still vacant to this day, Phil?
yes, yes, it
I am at.
still looks like it did the way the family
Wow.
let when, yeah, and that makes it even creepier, you
Yeah.
know, because it's one, usually in a situation like that, uh, family comes swoops in and they start dragging stuff off, cars, motor homes and stuff like that. But it's still there.
Wow.
Equipment outside, just super creepy.
Is I mean, especially considering what happened there, it can be probably a little difficult to sell a property like that. Is Georgia one of the states where that has to be disclosed to a potential buyer?
No, uh, what I think is right now is the house is tied up in probate. That's why it's no one's coming there and gotten everything. But no, it used to be but I think that was changed. I mean, I can't be for sure, but I think that has changed where you don't have to do that. You know, I would want to. Well, in a situation like this, if someone goes up there, potential buyer, there's neighbors who are going to let them know. There's neighbors. Hey, I'm your next door neighbor. Hey, did you hear about what happened here? No. Okay, here's what happened.
Yeah.
I wondered why the carpet in the living room was taken out and the floor was cut out,
Mm.
because that's how they have to do it. When they clean up a crime scene, they cut the floor out because of the blood and everything else. But I still don't drive past the property where I don't look over there. And if it's a downpour, I look over there and the memory of it just floods back. But it was a experience, because you normally don't see a house like that and then still see it every day. So it was unusual.
I wonder if you drove down the driveway again, which you probably aren't want to do, but if any more lights would pop on in that home yet again.
I that's a good question. I think it probably would. So it's somehow, some way, it may be a hello or a goodbye or whatever. Uh, for me, I have this one question that's been in my mind for a long time. We always talk about, did anything traumatic happen to this property? Did someone get killed? Did someone, do something bad? And that automatically, that's like a seed that's planted in our head. We automatically think because of that, there's going to be some paranormal activity. But the issue I have is, well, kind of like you went to Foxhole Farm, right?
Yes, I did.
Say, if when you die, right, uh, you're on your way to paradise, right, and or hell. Let's say hell. That's where you need to go. Not you, but
Yeah.
but but say if the guy at Fox Hollow Farm died, and he stands before God, and God says, "All right, Mister Fox Hollow Farm, you got a choice. You can go straight to hell. You can burn, 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 and you deserve the hottest, deepest part of hell. Or you can stay behind. You can blow cold air in someone's face. You can tap on their shoulder. You can make a device blink on and off. And also, not just that, we're going to let you still have control over the people you killed until one day someone with some special powers comes in and exercises you and turns those other people loose." I have a problem with. I think that ghosts are not the people. It's something else. It may be some sort of recording or something else. But I hate to think that bad guys like that are given a choice. Can I stay behind? Staying behind is a lot better than burning in hell. You know, and being able to torment the people that you tormented when you were alive. So I believe in the ghost, the paranormal. I just trying to figure out who they are, what they are. I just have a hard time thinking that they were bad and came back, because you know yourself, and you see it all the time. Paranormal investigators, what is the one thing they're going to inspect or research? They're going to research the history of the house. Well, 100 years ago, a guy set fire to the house, killed his family. Now that investigation is fed to the investigators. Oh yeah, it happened in the master bedroom. So where is everybody going to show up? They're going to go to the master bedroom instead of going there blind as a bat and determining where it's at, what it's at, instead of going in there with already preconceived notion of what's going on. I just have a hard time. I don't know. I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks that way, because on the cross, one of the thieves went to hell, and the other thief, God said, or Jesus said, "Today you will be go with me to paradise." He didn't say, "All right, thief, you're gonna be hung here on this cross, and you're gonna make noises, and you're gonna scare people." No, he said, "Today you're gonna go with me in paradise." And I have to believe that there is a heaven, there is a hell, there is a good, there is a bad. That bad people go where bad people need to go, and also because of where I'm at with the paranormal and all the houses that we went into, I took a one of those what's it called? What's it called? EMF.
Mm-hmm.
Took an EMF. I gave one to my lead man. I had one in my pocket, and I told the lead man, I said, every house you go into, I want you to set that thing somewhere in the house. I want you to tell me if it goes off. And every time, yes, Phil, it went off. Yes, and I took it, and every time I would go into a house, it would go off. Did we have any kind of indication? Did we show any fear? No, it was just a light blinking. And it got to the point with my lead man, he could call out one of his crew. He could say Robert, and the thing would go off. He could say house, and it would go off. Now, was it caused by anything paranormal? I don't know. Some of these houses were brand new. Some had never been lived in. Some of these buildings had been, uh, like a Walmart building we worked on. Uh, it went off. Now, I expect one to go off in a nursing home, a hospital, or assisted living facility, but I don't expect one to go off in a 100,000 square foot Walmart building or a house that just got built. That that Another question I have: are the devices that we're using, are they reliable? Because uh, if right now all the testimony is the only thing we have with the paranormal and also with cryptids testimony. That's all we have. When people research, what are they researching? They're researching someone telling their story, their encounter. We don't have any rock solid evidence at all that we can sift through. I know you're going to get a lot of feedback on that, but I'm not trying to, put out someone's fire or anything like that. That's just what we encountered.
Yeah. No, and it's, I mean, it's all we can do is work with what we're
Spec-
given and to speculate, absolutely. And as you said, I agree. I don't know how much we can rely on any of the gadgets, the REM pods, the EMF detectors, the ghost boxes that sweep the radio frequencies. It's a tool, but I don't think that we should rely on those too heavily. And some people seem to have more activity when they don't bring that kind of stuff in. Phil, I also wonder how much the fact that there was this storm going on, how much that played into maybe helping whatever energy was inside of that house build upon that and use that energy then to create this light source.
Well, that is a good thing. I mean, that is something to ponder because it very well could have happened. Um, I really sometimes I think when it comes to a storm like that, that storm may be something that person when they were alive that they may have had some kind of fear,
Mm.
uh, and that the light, because people who are afraid of the dark, they're going to flip that light on. If that storm did not trigger something that made them come out, but it was like a month after, and it was it was somewhat terrifying for me because I'm sitting in the driveway and I'm all of a sudden I'm flooded. Wow, what are you doing, Phil? Why'd you pull over? You know, park on the road. You know, I'm 20 feet from the house. You know,
You're
but
so curious though, and I love that about you because I would be much the same way is try to go towards something that's a little strange and might scare other people right out of the gate. But
yeah,
the fact that you saw this person who you thought was probably Jimmy, and then there's no person, but then there's these lights going on in the house. Did it look like a normal light overhead, from a fixture overhead, or was it, a ball of light? Could you describe that at all?
I didn't see it, but the deputy said it was like someone had flipped the light on and flipped the light off.
Wow.
Not like a orb or anything like that, but it was like
Yeah.
it was a flip on and flipped off. Okay. But the deputies did tell me, they said, uh, "Don't call us again tonight. Uh, we don't want to go back in there." I said, no, not to worry. I'm not coming back here tonight.
Yeah, you're like,
Whoever it
no
is,
problem.
no problem.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
call won't
I'm
be coming from me, at least,
no,
right, Phil? Oh my
no.
gosh. Wow, that's another one that, yeah, the second, I was wondering, I was like, is he going to say that the light is going to come on in another, another
Yeah,
instance? Oh, and it happened. Okay,
yeah.
next up, we have a battlefield child, and this is May 2026 in Chickamauga,
Mama,
Georgia.
Chickamauga,
Mugga.
Chickamauga. Yeah. Well, it's actually in the Chickamauga Chattanooga battlefield. It's a national park. It was the second bloodiest battle of the Civil War behind Gettysburg. I think there was 30,000 casualties in an area that's 5,500 acres. And you think 5,500 acres is a lot, right? And it is. But every day, every afternoon, my wife and I, we ride bikes in the battlefield. It's a great place to ride bikes. And we do about 16 to 20 miles a day.
Mm.
And that's how I know that 5,500 acres is not that big when you think about it. When you're thinking about a large, something. But anyway, we were riding, and there's always people walking, people running, you know, people walking their dogs, and we were riding, and we come by this woman with kids, two kids, and there was a little boy in the front, and they were pushing one of those plastic lawnmowers, and there was a little girl in the back. She was just by herself. So I mean, she was close to the mom, so it wasn't like the mom was had too much space between her and the baby. And my wife and I, we go all the way down to a mansion that sits inside the battlefield. We turned around, came back, and I saw the woman again, but the baby in the back, the girl in the back was missing. And I asked my wife, "Did you see that girl with the two babies, and one was missing on our way back?" She said, "No, there was only one kid with that woman. It was the one in the front." And we were sitting there. She was real close to the parking area where you park, and I was, putting our bikes back on the rack, and it takes a little time. She walks up with that a little boy, and I just asked her, "Did you have a little girl with you, brother?" "No, I just have a son." And there was nobody. There was no one else walking with her where it could have been somebody else's child. So what was it?
Wow.
Don't know.
Do you know, Phil, if there are other reports of people seeing ghostly children on that battlefield?
The interesting thing about the Chickamauga Chattanooga battlefield is you just do not hear about any paranormal activity in the battlefield, and you should, because once the battle, I mean, there's a story about a creature called Green Eyes, and Green Eyes was in the battle, was supposed to be roaming around the dead. Some say Green Eyes was eating the dead, and some say it was just walking around. But uh, say at this battlefield, just maybe a half a mile from it, there was a German POW camp from World War II. So Germans who were captured, some of them were brought to Chickamauga. It was also the home of the 6th Cavalry. All of those houses are still there. It was also home for a WAC unit, which is the Women's Auxiliary Corps. So there was a lot going on there. And after the battle, during the retreat of the Union, they went north toward Chattanooga, which might be 5 miles. So you're talking about 70 something thousand men walking north. Uh, so that's a lot of people. I mean, that's a town. And they got in Chattanooga. They started fighting again. So Chattanooga's a battleground. There's a mountain that overlooks Chattanooga that was a battleground. There's a ridge. So the whole area, and then plus there's the Tennessee River. But I have yet to hear any stories about the battlefield at all. And when you get to Chattanooga, people have cannons in their front yard. They have markers saying, "Hey, this, Captain so and so was, shooting down this hill or up this hill, but never have.
Wow. Yeah, we've definitely covered old Green Eyes before with Mark Muncy. He's talked about, I think it's come up a couple of times because that's just very creepy story around very unfortunate events. Okay, next up is Body Locker, January 2009.
Yeah, this is funny. When I had a crew that was working at uh, a old hospital, and it was like a county hospital. It wasn't that big, but there was uh, in the basement. Nothing good ever happens in basements, right? There was a morgue, down there, and we were down there looking around. And I had about three young guys with me, and one of them said, "Phil, can I get inside that body locker?" I said, "Well, you're going to take the door off because I don't want that door slamming on you and you freaking out in there, and I go to jail because you're dead." So they popped the door off. He got him on. He got up on that slab. It was about, I guess, about chest high. He got on the slab. He's laying there, and it's out about 2 feet. Now I'm not there when it happens. All of a sudden, I hear this god awful screaming. You know, uh, in fact, I told these guys I was going to have to take their man card for screaming, right? And what he was on that slab, and all of a sudden he got pulled in there, not a little at a time, but just a jerk, sudden jerk. And then he stuck his hands up above him, and he was trying to, pull himself out, and it wouldn't go. And it still wouldn't go. And he was so terrified that he crawled out of there. And then once he got out of there, guess what? The rack came out with no problems. Reach up there and pull it, it would come out. But he was in there, it was locked. And that is exactly why I didn't leave the door on there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Nope. That's a big bag of nope. That poor guy. And it was his idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thrill seeker.
Oh
And
my
think
gosh.
yeah. And what makes it worse is the houses and properties we worked on, they didn't have power. So
Yeah.
in a basement, there was no, uh, wells or anything else to bring light in. It was basically what would filter down from a door, which was not that much. And so it was pitch dark inside there. So, so from then on out, he decided not to do any paranormal investigations.
Yeah, you probably didn't hop into any other morgue spaces that were small and dark. And as you rightfully said, I'm definitely not closing the door. Imagine if you would have shut the door. Maybe whoever it was or whatever it was could have locked it, as you said.
Well, I
Oh,
mean, think about this: is are there two doors on a body locker? Is there one on the inside and outside? No, because the guy on the inside, he doesn't need door handle.
nope.
You know, uh, it's not like the old days when they'd hang a bell up and someone got buried alive. They could ring that bell and hope somebody heard the bell.
Yeah.
Uh, he, yeah, he was. He still to this day, he still tells everybody about it. But you know something? I hear a lot of people say, uh, "I'll never go back in that place. I won't do that." He wasn't that way. He wouldn't go in the basement without him by himself. And I wouldn't do it either.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't like basements, but I definitely don't like one where they were storing bodies. You
Yeah.
know, uh, that's a creeper for me. I don't like creepers.
Yeah, as you said, nothing good usually happens in the basement. You
No.
definitely basements and sometimes attics. Attics can also be
Yes.
creepy spaces. Okay, well, last but not least for what is the haunted remains part 2, which I hope you like that name. It's kind of a double entendre. I came up with that for your episodes. But we have the UFO from April of 2005.
All right. Every November, myself and two of my cousins, we take a hiking trip and a camping trip up in uh, this Raven County, which is Appalachia country. And what we do is we park at this. Well, first of all, these two guys, one of them's a works for the forestry department, the government. The other guy's a game warden. So these guys, their office is basically the woods. That's their office. So when people say they live in the woods, these guys literally live in the woods. They solo camp frequently, and so every year in November, I only want to go in November because I know there's no ticks, fleas, snakes, spiders, and so we pulled into this forestry department maintenance facility. We parked the truck and we put our gear on, and we just walk into the woods. There's no trails. There's no power, lines or anything like that. We just step off into the woods, and we're stepping off into these. I think they're eastern pines, and they get up to 120 feet tall. So that's a tall tree, and we started walking, and we were probably about 2 miles to our campsite, and we go to the same campsite every year. And I don't know how these guys find it because it's maybe 2,000 square feet of no trees, and nothing grows there for some reason,
Hmm.
because pine trees can grow out of a rock. And about 2 miles out, we hear someone calling us. So we stop and we're looking around, and we see a woman, two women, and a man. So, and they're asking if we can help them. So they come over, and they're young. They're early 20s, and they tell us that they were on the trail, but there was a couple of creepers that were following them. If they would stop, the creepers would stop, and they're just maybe 100 feet back. So they went over a hill or a knoll, and they decided, you know what, we're gonna hit the woods, and we're gonna circle back around, get the trail, and go back to our car to get away from these creepers. And they got lost, of course. And my cousin, who was the forester guy, he was trying to. They wanted to know how to get back, and he was telling them, "All right, go down here, turn left at the big rock, turn right." And I'm thinking, these guys probably watched a couple of camping videos, went to REI and bought a couple $1,000s worth of Patagonia, and they hit the trail. They got their Columbia boots, and they look good. And I just stepped in because I have three girls. I had three girls. I stepped in and said, "You guys aren't going anywhere. You're going with us. You're going to follow us to the top. You're going to camp with us. We're going to walk back down the trail." And it was a day's hike back down to the maintenance facility, and I'll give you a ride back to your car. And they were excited about that. That all of a sudden I was like, "Whew, thank you, thank you." And so we started hiking, and what I made sure happened was uh, my cousin Perry, he was taking the point, and my cousin Terry, they were twins, he was taking the rear, right, and myself and our four friends were in the middle. And I did that because in scary movies, the guy on the back usually stops and he ends up missing. You know, he starts chasing a butterfly, and like, whoa, and you don't notice it till an hour later. So I played it safe. We got to our campsite. We set our tents up. We set them kind of around the fire, and it was nice having six people gathering firewood. It was going to get like in the low 40s that night. So we were sitting around the camp, and just our friends were drinking their wine. I was drinking the so, and we're just having our favorite beverage, and we're talking. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to stretch out on the ground. I grabbed my sack, and I lay it on the ground, and I lean back, and I'm looking straight up. And all of a sudden, I'm looking up at the sky, and all of a sudden I see this black thing coming across the top of the trees. But it wasn't like it was a cloud because we were on a mountain. It wasn't like it was a cloud. It was had a sharp line. A cloud would have been kind of, light to dark. This was a sharp line, and as soon as I saw it, I pointed up there. I said, "Look at that!" And they looked up there at it, and everybody was just awestruck. And then we watched it slowly go by. And on the backside, it was also a straight line. And it kept going. And we were only 120 feet from this thing, right? And it just faded away. And I was like, wow. And everybody else was like, wow. I said, did you guys? Yeah, we saw that. What do you think it is? UFO, UFO. But my cousin Perry, he said, no, that was just a cloud. Just a cloud. Okay. What are the facts? For me, I always look at the facts and what are the questions. The facts were six of us saw it. Five of us said, nope, that's a UFO. Number six said, no, it's not. So there, you put a, question mark on there. And we left without any other incident. And we got the people back to their car. And I've heard on your show, because I mean yours is your show's is the only one I watch because I get everything I need from all your guests. Uh, but we were walking back, we got back, and I'm started thinking, I hear people all the time say there's a hidden Air Force base, there's these Black Hawks flying everywhere. I started thinking, uh, I worked in a shipyard many years ago, and I did some work on the Nimitz while it was in dock, right? And I started thinking, a Nimitz class aircraft carrier is over 1,000 feet long. It takes 5,000 people to keep that thing moving. Try to take the Nimitz and hide it. Try to take it. Say you need four of those to make a decent Air Force base. All right, Phil. They're making them. They're making these things. These experimental aircraft. We don't know about it, and they're flying them. Okay. Uh, Everything that you get from Boeing, all the parts are outsourced. They don't make any parts. There's thousands of vendors, and those vendors have vendors. So those parts for a plane are being made by somebody. All right. So you got 5,000 people that work underground. It's going to take years, first of all, to dig it out. Years. Same way with the mountains. Once you pull the dirt out, where are you going to put it? You're going to have this mountain of fresh dirt that says, "Hey, something's underground." When you don't see a big hole, okay. Say you got 5,000 people running that facility, and you say they're where do you hide 5,000 people? Where do you hide them? What do they do? They go home. What do they go home to? A wife, kids, aunts, uncles, parents. So that 5,000 just turned into 15,000. So how do you get 15,000? And you know that the guys at the bottom of the run, the ones who have to keep the place going, plumbers, electricians, uh, millwrights, technicians, do we really think that those people are going to bite their tongue? They're not worried about a pension because they don't work for the government. They work for a contractor. They work for a government contractor. All right, every day we want you guys to sign this agreement that you're going to keep your mouth shut. Not going to happen. So you got 5,000 people. Say you got two shifts of 2,500 people, two 12-hour shifts. Okay, where do you park 2,500 cars? What would it take? 40 acres? So I have a problem with the hidden Air Force bases, aircraft that we don't know what it is. Yeah, they may not disclose it for a while, uh, publicly. And they probably shake you down pretty good so you don't take photos. But that's where I stand on the UFO deal. Do I believe it? Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, but I often wonder, okay, uh, these entities coming from far off galaxies, do they look at us like we look at a cockroach? I mean, when's the last time you tried to greeting to a cockroach? Let me show you how to read English. No, you're not. Say if you come from another planet, like we go to the moon, we can't live on the moon. Maybe they can't live our space because of oxygen. Maybe they need. Maybe they don't need. Maybe they're machines, but they come here and they leave. Maybe they can't survive here. They can't thrive here. Maybe they're not even uh, flesh and blood like we want to think they're. Maybe they're robots. Maybe they're mechanical. But I just think that what we're seeing is probably so far out there that we'll never be able to imagine what is, because to them we're just a cockroach. We're nothing. And you know what? How many times in history have floods, tornadoes, all of these disasters come and killed us just like we go into a house and spray it for bugs. But you know what? The bugs always come back. They're not. It's not a permanent fix. Anyway, that's my take on that.
So it sounds
So,
like this craft was moving pretty slow. Do you have a guess on how big it was?
uh, well, the next morning, because I was thinking about that, I got up and I walked the area. I walked it off, and the area was roughly 30 feet wide and about 60 feet long, a rectangle. So it was bigger than that. So how far out, I don't know because it was so low. Uh, we could not. I mean, it could have been a mile wide.
Yeah.
Uh, but I was just thinking, all right, let me just see how much space we do have here. Uh, just I like when something like that happens. I take a moment and I go ahead and log. I go ahead and write up a statement. I use first person. Upon arrival, we found this, this, and this. While laying on my back, I noticed this, and uh, because I know our memory is going to fail us one day. But 30 by 60 is what it was.
It sounds like it was so close, and it's incredible that it sounds like if you hadn't have been looking up, none of you would have known it was even there.
Well, I mean, because it was black, we would have saw the sky disappear.
Okay.
So
I mean,
so
if
it
you
would have
weren't
got
looking
dark.
up though, I mean,
Yeah,
it would have blocked the moon, I guess, enough to go, what in the world's going on? Okay.
yeah. Well,
Wow.
if you get 120-foot trees and they're foresty, uh, and you have something like that happen, you're going to notice a difference because you notice the same thing if there's just a regular cloud floating by,
Right.
but this was not a regular cloud. Now,
Wow.
I still tell Perry, you can go ahead and admit that it was a UFO. You know, but I tell you something, you don't have to experience something to believe something, right? These guys had been in the woods with their jobs since they graduated college, and they had never seen or come across a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And these guys go 1 to 2 days in the woods. Now, uh, to me, if you're if you're out in the middle of nowhere, that's 2 days away from a road by foot. So that's out in the middle of nowhere, but they still believe in it. And I was asking one of them. I was asking Perry. I said, uh, "What does a cat sound like?" Because I've never heard one in the woods in the wild.
You kind of broke up there a little bit, Phil. I'm sorry. What does a what sound
Oh,
like?
I asked him what a bobcat sounded
Bobcat.
like.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've never heard one in the woods, right? And he got his phone. He pulled up something. He said, "All right, I'm going to give you four sounds. I want you to pick out the bobcat." I heard it sounds kind of like a woman. I don't know if that's true, but he gave me these four sounds. And he said, "Which one's the bobcat?" And I said, "Number two." He said, "Nope." He said, "All of them." And each one of them was different. Just because it's a bobcat doesn't mean it's like something we make, like a baseball. Each one of them had a distinctive different because some of them might have had throat cancer. Some of them might have had been in a fight and damaged their what do you call it here, and damage it. So we can't really say if for what we're hearing if it's not an animal that has a problem uh, getting out what a normal one would get out. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, you know what, that makes sense. So if you hear something that's not a bobcat, but it is a bobcat, you think, wow, what was that? You know, so that's something for Bigfoot guys and people who do some hiking. Think about that. Think about if do some critical thinking. Was it really a bobcat or was it something else?
Okay. November 2008, we are going to an abandoned hospital.
Okay. Um, in the hospital, this was an old county hospital. I don't think I put this was in Rome, Georgia. I didn't put it there, but I do have my sheet here, Rome, Georgia. And there was a county hospital. It was several floors tall, and it had been closed for a long time. So we went there. No power, of course. None of these houses had power. None of them had water, utilities. And we get there. We get inside there, and it's 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 black. The stairways are in the middle of the building. So as you go between floors, it's just pitch black, right? So we go floor by floor. We start on the first floor. We go to the basement, and it was your typical basement. It was fallout shelter at one time. There were barrels of water, cots, you know, MREs, all of that. And we go floor by floor. Nothing goes on. We get on the top floor, and we notice that there's something on the floor. What is this? And we're walking on it. And the way this hospital was on the last floor, there was a hallway that went all the way around the perimeter. So all the rooms up there had no windows, and the windows were in the hallway. And they had these old pull down blinds, and all this stuff was on the floor, and we're sitting there looking at this, trying to figure out what it is, and we're going room by room by room. Then all of a sudden we hear this fluttering sound, and we cannot. It's like we're looking at each other. What in the blank is that? And all of a sudden we hear it coming in front of us, and we look down that hallway, and the hallway took another hard right, 90 degrees, and coming around that hallway was a flock of pigeons. And like earlier, pigeons make that fluttering sound. And if you've got 50 pigeons coming your way, it's straight up terrifying, you know. And they're just flying through us, and there's a window at the end that's open, and they're going out that window just as fast as they can go. Well, once those pigeons come out of there, after I got my senses back, I realized that what we were walking on was pigeon dung. It was, I don't know, out so deep. And the first question that came to my mind was, why are pigeons roosting up here? I know there's an open window, but why so many? And so we walked down to the end of the hallway, and we turned right. And at the end of the hallway, there was there was an empty room down there, and they'd really been staying in there. And in that room, there was a bed, a hospital bed, and on that hospital bed was like it was covered in blood, right? It was covered in blood, and I have these red lights that I use to get around with, so I don't kill my my night vision. But I also have a battery powered blue light that I use to see mold, ammonia, stuff like that. I can wand it, and I wanded it over that bed, and it showed up blood because the blue light will show up blood. And I was scratching my head, and I got downstairs, and there was guy riding his bike down the street. He stopped. He said, "You guys going to fix that up?" I said, "No, we're going to tear it down." And he said, "Have y'all been to the top floor yet?" I said, "Yeah, we went up there." And he said, "My friend Larry, he he died up there on the top floor, and we don't know what killed him because when they found him, he was basically uh, in pieces, basically like he had been cut up." Now, what are the facts here? Were three of us again. We witnessed the pigeons. There were three of us again who saw the bloody hospital bed. What are the facts? The facts are this: there was a bloody hospital bed. There were a lot of pigeons. I'm just speculating on how many, 20, 30, 50, there was a lot. And the floor was full of dung. What's another question? Pigeons normally don't roost inside buildings. And how many years would it take for the floor to get that messed up, and why? So this was another one. Okay, maybe the guy who was what? First of all, what killed him? Right. One of the things you don't hear about on any channel or any, I don't know, maybe this is something you could probably reach out to people and see if you could find out more. Is not on this list, but I have. Uh, we've had encounters with um, cryptids, urban cryptids, ones that live in the city. So was this an urban cryptid that just happened to be hiding out on that second floor? This poor homeless guy got up there and ran into this thing, and that's what happened. He just got shredded by this creature. Now, why the pigeons were in there, I don't know. Still can't figure that out. But but that's the only thing. Of course, there's another strange question with an even stranger answer, but the facts are still the same. It happened, and there was the pigeons, and there was the dung on the floor.
Yeah, it is also interesting timing that you ran into the gentleman that actually he was friends with the man that was killed there
Yes, yes.
or died there,
It,
whatever happened. I mean, if he died and then was ripped apart or was murdered or whatever happened, it was strange timing. He actually got that information.
well, the thing I've learned about uh, homeless people and street people is they they will sleep and go places that you and I would never be caught in
Oh
day or
yeah,
night,
yeah,
and just for shelter.
oh yeah.
And I don't know of any homeless person I've ever met that didn't have some sort of mental disability. You can't live on the streets and sleep in vacant buildings and be, beaten up and robbed and everything else and have your whole brain together. So finding a homeless person deceased inside of a building is not uncommon.
Right.
But at the same time, um, how many how many homeless people die and it's never listed in a newspaper because they have no family? How often does that happen? How many of them come up missing and no one's looking for them?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's sad. There's
you know.
in between 2 and 3,000 people that usually live in the tunnels underneath Las Vegas. There's been several documentaries and people that have gone down there, and they live in. I mean, it's the wash. It's the overflow wash. It's a massive, cement wash, and it's pitch black down there. And I just cannot imagine ever even setting foot for 5 minutes in a place like that. And they live down there. They create entire communities and neighborhoods underneath the city. So yeah, it is a different mindset, that's for sure. All right,
And you
so
don't really don't know what creepers are down there either.
oh my goodness gracious, I can't even. Yeah,
No, it would.
no, no, thank you. All right, so June of 2006. This is titled "Roadside Markers."
Okay, I had a 3-man crew working on a property that had been in a family for like three generations, maybe four. I know at least three. Uh, and the third generation got the property free, no, no mortgage, just straight up free, 40 acres, and they went out and mortgaged it, right? So they lost it. Family farm's gone. I sent a three-man crew out there to work on the property, and I was this was a big project, so I was going there and checking on it on a daily basis to make sure it was going good and doing some QC work, right? So the house set up on a hill. So I went there the first day and I pulled up and I asked the lead man. I said, "Hey, how's everything going? Do you need anything? Do I need to get you some material? Blah blah blah." I said, "Has anything happened?" Because sometimes in a situation like that, the last homeowner would show up. You know, so no, everything's. He said, "The only thing that's happened. We haven't had anybody pull up, but I've seen three people just inside the tree line down here where the driveway turns to come up around the back of the house. The driveway was like an S. It made an S and went out of the back of the house." He said, "I saw three people down there." And I thought, okay, it's probably just the old homeowners, you know, spying and knows, see what's going on up here, seeing work trucks. I said, "Don't worry about it." I came back the next day and said, "How's everything going?" He said, "Well, I saw those same three people inside the wood line. Can you make out what they are, who they are, sex or anything like that?" "No," he said, "I can just tell they're people inside the tree line." And so that kind of piqued my brain a little bit. What is that? Maybe I said, and my thought was not paranormal. It was all right. I got some squatters out there, and we've got a tent built, and they're living out there. If they are, I need to make sure they get out here. So on the last day of working, I got the lead man and the other two guys, and I said, "Let's walk out in the wood." I did an aerial view, but I couldn't see anything. The trees was just too thick. So the last day, I said, "You guys follow me down the hill. We're going to go out in the woods and we're going to see if we got any squatters." So we got down there. We walked out in the woods, and we kept walking. Didn't see nothing. Nothing. In fact, they were very hard to to walk in. I mean, it was basically we needed a machete to cut our way through there. Then I could see a highway up there, and so we walked to the highway. When we got to the highway, we walked out on the shoulder. I mean, on the right of way, and I looked to the left, and there were three crosses on the shoulder of the road, on the right of way of the road, next to the woods. They were three crosses made out of concrete, side by side, indicating to me that three people had died there in an automotive accident. And of course, my paranormal brain said, "All right, was it these three people that he's been seeing on the tree line 50 feet away?" Is that speculation? Yeah. Is it a possibility? Well, anything's possible. But the facts are this: there were three people for 2 days that saw three people inside the wood line, inside the tree line. There were no houses close by, none across the highway, none next to the highway, none close at all. And if it was three people, why, why, why did they choose to be spying on the house? None of it made sense. And that's where my paranormal speculative brain come up. Well, does it have something to do with those three crosses?
Yep, very
You
well
know,
could be. It's always good when you have more than one person seeing an event, right? That makes all the difference. All right, so let's go to January of 2017, and this is titled "Broken Glass," and this is in Cherokee County, North Carolina.
okay. January, it was very cold. It was a snowy day. We were leaving. I had dropped off a dump trailer at a property. Went by and to pick it up and to pick up the two guys who had been loading it, and we were going to take it to the landfill. And we uh, hooked up. We were on our way to the landfill. I had two options. I could take the interstate, or I could take the old highway that the interstate replaced. I chose the old highway because I had a heavy load and I was going to have to go a little bit slower, and I might have been a little bit overloaded, right, weight wise. So we're going down the road. It's really cold, and I look in my rearview mirror and I noticed that the tarp was flapping in the wind. Well, you have to have your load tarp, or you will get a ticket, right? So I said, well, I got to find a wide spot to pull over. We pulled over to this wide spot, and I got out. The guys went back there, started strapping the top, and I'm just stretching my legs and I'm looking around. There's nothing, nothingness, right? In fact, that whole road, it's just like a ghost town. Everything that, all the commerce that was on that road, gone. The gas stations, the motels, the hotels, all of that gone, right? And I'm looking up the what I thought, looking up there, I see a house buried behind a bunch of pine trees and cottonwood trees. I said, "Hey guys, there's a house up there," and I said, "Let's go up there and check it out." So we walked up there and we get there, and all of a sudden we get close to it, and the windows are broken out, and the drapes are flying out the windows, and about that time we start getting some flurries of snow coming down, and the house is just a mess, and we have to kind of weed our way around the trees, and we get in there, and the house is just turned upside down. I mean, it's and there's a second floor. So we're walking around, all three of us, and um, all of a sudden we all three go upstairs, right? And to myself and another guy, we come back downstairs and we're walking around, and I say, well, it's time to go. We got to go. We got to get to the landfill. So I can hear the other guy upstairs. We can both hear the other guy upstairs, and we're like, all right. And I yell up there, come on down. We got to go. We got to go. And there's no response. Come on down. We got to go. Another no response. So I said, all right, let's go up there and get him. We go up there and we walk every room, and he's not there. Not there. We walk into the bedroom that faces the back of the house. The window's blown out. There's a curtain flapping in the wind, and we look out about outside, and we see the my other guy out there coming out of a barn, which is at least 100 feet from the house. So who did we hear walking around upstairs on the broken glass? Right, the floor was covered in glass, and that the second floor basically had nothing in it but little random trash. Who was that walking around upstairs? And we there again, we it's not our house, right? So I'm not worried about it. If someone's in there, they're in there. But we done checked every. It's just two bedrooms and a Jack and Jill bathroom, so it's not like it was a labyrinth of rooms. No attic because it's second floor. No attic, not enough room. And the closet had the doors had been ripped up, so there was nobody there. So we go downstairs. We go out there to where he's at, and when did you was you just upstairs? No, no, I've been out here for a little while, and we told him what happened, and we're all three looking up at the house, and all of a sudden we see a shadow move across the back wall of the house, ever so slow, and it's a cloudy day, and it would be the kind of shadow that the person making the shadow would have to cross the window at some point in order to make the shadow. And we chose instead of we chose to go around the house to get out because I had two options. I had two thoughts. somebody squatting in there or something paranormal. And so I erred on caution, a squatter. But the facts are this: three people, two people heard the glass, two people went upstairs and found no carbon based life form, period. Three people, 100 feet from the house, saw a shadow go across the wall, right? Three people. What are the questions? What's the questions that I left there with? Who was upstairs? What was upstairs? And how? What made that shadow? Was it paranormal or was it a person? And of course, it being 20 degrees and snowing just set the scene even more, made it even more creepier.
Absolutely. All right, next up, February of 2016. This one is titled Corpse Wood, and this is in either Tryon or Treon, Georgia.
Tryon. All right. While I'm telling this, I want you to pull up on your. I want you to pull up. I want you to type in Corpsewood, Tryon, Georgia, and you'll see this happened back in the '70s. We were working on top of there's a ridge right there above Tryon. We were working up on that ridge. Some people call it a mountain. We were working up there. I had two guys working up there. I went by and picked them up, and I had three choices. I needed to get back down to Tryon, and the straight shot to Tryon was like a 20-minute drive. The other two, I had to go down and come off where it wasn't so steep, and that was going to cost me an hour. So I thought, you know what? I'll take the old mountain road, which was dirt and gravel. It's going to be a little rough. It's going to be a little slow, but I'm going to get down there quicker, right? And I start telling the guys the story of Corpsewood. And these guys are, uh, they're they like a good thrill. We all like a good thrill, as long as it's controlled. We like controlled fear. When if it gets too scary, just turn the lights on. And they said, "Can we stop there? Do you know where it's at?" I said, "Yeah, I know where it's at. You can't see it from the road. You have to kind of walk back in there, hike back in there to see it." So I stopped there, and then they got out and they said, "Are you going with us?" I said, "No." "You ever been back there?" I said, "No, I won't go back there." And I said, "I know what happened back there, and nothing was good. None of it was good." And the guys back there, they did not try to hide it. They did not try to lie about it. They were serious, serious devil worshippers. They moved down from clicking that pen. They moved down from Chicago, and they bought, that piece of property, and that was the days before people started homesteading and moving out in the middle of nowhere. So these guys came from Chicago. They bought that piece of property out in the middle of nowhere. It's still in the middle of nowhere. There's still nothing around it. The road is still the same. And they met some locals. They did some weird stuff. They had some really, really bad stuff going on up there. They built this castle looking thing out of brick by themselves with absolutely no building experience. And they they befriended some locals, and because they were strange, they befriended some strange locals. And these locals uh, eventually decided, you know what, we're going to go ahead and rob these men. And they not only robbed them, but they murdered them. They killed them. And then they ran off to Texas, got caught, all this other stuff. But I told those guys when they got out, I said, it's about 200 feet back there, 200, 300 feet back there. I said, when you go back there, don't touch anything, don't take anything, and don't talk to anything. You got me? I said, you guys hear me? I said, don't do that. And they kind of laughed it off. I said, I'm serious. Don't do it. They get out. They go back there, and I'm sitting in the truck, and I'm looking on my iPad at the next job, and all of a sudden I see these guys come out. It's just running as fast as they can, jumping over rocks and everything. They get in the truck. They tell me to get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. So I get out of here and I go down the road a little bit. I pull over. I want to know what happened. And they told me they got back there and they were looking around, and the castle they built had been destroyed by fire. All the other buildings they had destroyed by fire. They had a tree house built. It was destroyed. The only thing left were foundations and evidence that there was something there at one time. So when I got them out and I asked them what happened, they said they were back there, they were looking at stuff, and they were just, you know, all of a sudden they could hear their name being called out. But it was kind of strange. It was like you know Danny heard Mike calling his name, and Mike heard Danny calling his name, right? And I said, "You didn't answer back." And they said, "No, we just looked at each other real strange," and they remembered what the old man said: "Don't touch, don't talk, don't take, and don't talk." And then they were, kind of, all right, wow, it's time to leave, right? And then all of a sudden they hear some growling, and it was a really, really vicious sounding growl. And they look around and they see a dog, and this dog was just black dog, brown under the eyes and stuff. This black dog he was just giving them the mean mug, and he was just ready to charge. And he did. He charged. And that's when they took off. They reached a certain point where the dog fell back, stopped. The growling stopped, the dog stopped. They turned around, the dog was completely gone. And I asked him, I said, "What kind of dog was it?" "Well, it looked like a pit bull, but it wasn't a pit bull." These guys know pit bulls. And I said, "Well, what was it?" "We don't know. We don't know." So I pulled up. They described it to me. So I pulled up on my pad a Rottweiler. That's it. That's what we saw. That's it. That's what we saw, a Rottweiler. And we started. Once I saw that, there had been a wait. There had been a. They knew there were dogs up in those hills, right? Pack dogs. But the question was this: first of all, what is the facts? The facts are these guys went back there. They had an experience with something calling their name and each other's name, and they had a dog. Fact number two, a dog chased them out. Fact number three, the dog could have caught them and did some bodily damage, but didn't. It stopped 50 feet shy of the road and disappeared. What are the questions? Who was calling their name? And where did the dog from? And if it was a physical dog, why did it stop 50 feet from the road? And why did it disappear? Why did it give up? A dog chasing a target doesn't give up until it's on the target. And these guys said it stopped and they turned around, it was gone. What is my take on it? I believe them because I saw the fear in their eyes. I believe them. And what do I think it was? Well, 100% sure, no. But my first thought came up that it's maybe a Wendigo. Don't they sometimes call out to people?
They're said to. So are other things though. You have, the maybe elemental type things or fae, but if there was some kind of Satan worship going on there and they were conjuring things, who knows? But the fact
Yeah.
that they get there and anything in any woods or any property would know their names is extremely creepy. And that's outside of the whole dog situation.
Yeah. In my, I don't know, but my thought on that was that maybe they called out to each other, and that's how whatever it was got their name.
Okay.
Hey, Danny, come over and take a look at this. Hey,
Right.
Mike, come over and take a look at this.
Right.
That's what I thought could have happened there, and whatever specter it was, um, that might have been how they got their name. But at the same time, it's still extremely creepy, and to have that happen, that's another one of those things that you're not going to forget.
No. Did they say that the dog looked 100% flesh and blood? Was there anything weird physically about the dog?
They were not close enough, I guess, to
Okay.
really ascertain if it was one way or the other.
Yeah.
But in their mind, it was the real deal. You know,
Yeah.
it was the absolute real deal. They they had absolutely no question about it.
Ooh.
But
Yeah.
you know what? And the reason they asked me, why didn't you go? Why didn't you go with us? Why haven't you been back there? You like the strange and odd and things like that. I said, if I know that a property has had that going on, I don't care. If it don't have to be a house, it can just be a empty lot. I'm not going on it. I'm not going on it. If I know, because I don't. And here's my thinking is, we shouldn't play with dead things. Children should not play with dead things, and children should not play with potential evil things either. That's why I don't believe in Ouija boards. Why? Because I think they work. I think you can put stuff on you that you can't get rid of. So you stay away from what you think or know is evil.
Yeah. People like to poke and prod, though, Phil. All right. So, May of 2012, we are talking about a Catholic church.
All right, the Catholic Church. All right. Um, for me, probably the creepiest places that you can go into are old churches, and the one not the ones that have nothing going on, but I'm talking about the churches that have 7 foot, 8 foot Madonnas, crucifixes. These fancy pulpits, choir lofts. Those are the ones to me that are absolutely the creepiest. And once again, no lights, no no water. All you have is a headlamp, flashlight, and your camera. That's it. This Catholic church was empty, and the congregation had moved to a larger church. So we got it, and we were going to be taking care of it till it sold or it got demolished or something else. And I just happened to be in there by myself, and I was walking the building, making sure it hadn't been broken into, making sure there was no leaks and things like that. Because I walked these properties many, many, many times by myself. That wasn't uncommon. So we were walking the property, and I was going from the sanctuary over to a hallway where there was three wings, and I was in the sanctuary, and we got these uh, fancy windows, and it's letting in this light that changes colors, and you can see, and there's this beautiful pulpit, right? Beautiful. To the left, there's a 9 foot crucifix. To the right, there's a 9 foot Madonna. And for me, I don't know why it is, but every time I come across a Madonna, I always feel like she's watching me as I walk. I don't know why. It's just one of those deals. Anyway, I'm in there. It's dark. It's dimly lit. I got my light going on, and I hear something. So I reach up there and turn my light off because if there's someone in there, I want to see them. I want to hear it, and I want to be able to know where I can go. So I turn my light off and I sit down and I try to be quiet. I'm looking at the pulpit when I see a shadow from the left move across to the pulpit, stop. Then I saw the shadow go back to the left and fade away. And I just sat there and scratched my head. Did I see that? I said, yeah, you did. So, I got up. And at that time, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go out where there's more light. So I go out to the hallway, I go out to the wing, and I'm leaving. And I walk down to the end of this hallway. There was three wings. It used to be a school. Three wings. These wings had classrooms on each side of the hallway. All the doors were closed. So when you're walking down the hallway, it's dark. And you got to go all the way to the end of the hallway to get back to the parking lot. I walked all the way to the end of the hallway. I turn around and I look back, and there that shadow is again at the other end of the hallway. Now it didn't have the shape of a human. It just was a shadow that was 6 feet tall, and it was felt like it was looking at me. I was watching it, and all of a sudden it just went off to the left, and it was gone. It was gone. Now, now the thing, what I've told you uh, earlier is we. I don't have backstories for any of this. No backstories because that's not what we were doing,
Yeah.
and I did not have time to. At that time I didn't have the luxury of extra time to research it. I really didn't care because I had to get to the next job. So I don't know if there was a common occurrence in that place from other people. To me, when I see shadow people, I don't know why. When I've seen them twice. That's one of them. When I've seen them, I've always, and before I witnessed them, I've always thought that they were something evil. That's just what I always felt, that they were evil, some sort of evil. Are they evil? No, I don't know. That's just my take on it. So, what was it? Don't know. What are the facts? Unfortunately, the facts are this: only one person witnessed it. No, no third party, two party certification. I like certification, so I'm the only one who witnessed it. Right? What's the questions? What was it? Was the one in the sanctuary the same one in the hallway? Was it good? Was it evil? Was it a past pastor, priest? Because after that, not long after that, I was talking to a priest and I was asking him. I said, because I was thinking, what? If a shadow was evil, why would it be in a church, right? And then I asked a priest I met a priest a couple months later or so, and asked him, why would an evil be inside of a church, a church building? And he said, Phil, the building is not the church. The church is the congregation. The building just houses the congregation. And if you are a criminal, are you going to go to the ghetto to try to make money and steal money? No, you're going to go to a neighborhood where you got money. If you're a demon or something evil, what would you want to go into? You want to go into a church. Just because you're inside the building, don't mean you don't have evil thoughts or have evil, uh, you know, come after you. So that was the question. What was it? What was it? Was it good? Was it evil? And was the one in the sanctuary the same one in the hallway?
Well, Phil, I sure appreciate your time. And something that we talked about before I officially hit record was that you have plenty more things that you've written down over the years. And it sounds like we might do the Haunted Remains part 3 and 4 coming up
Well,
here, which everyone,
we
including
gotta,
myself, would enjoy.
yeah, I've enjoyed it. You have
Thanks,
a good
Phil.
show. You have good guests. You you what I like about what you do is you're kind to people. You're a good listener. You're sympathetic. You're empathetic. Uh, you just when people talk to you, they know that you hear them. They
Thanks.
know you hear them, and that's why your show is successful, and that's why it's going to continue to be successful.
Thanks, Phil.
So
I
keep the
appreciate
good
that.
work up, and I'll send you a list, and we will do it again.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Phil. You guys have a great day out there.